Welcome to the Literature Lounge, where writers and authors share their stories behind their stories.
If people who are in the system feel asphyxiated, then there is something wrong.
Absolutely. Even our prestigious institutions, and universities are really losing their autonomy now, in teaching and in research. So, can you just share your views on this?
If people who are in the system feel asphyxiated, then there is something wrong.
Absolutely.
This is a place for debate. This is a place for dissent. This is not a place for a single narrative to be churned out.
100%.
Okay. So in that particular case, if the autonomy is curtailed, then there is a problem on hand. In rural India, most people go to the rural medical practitioners who are
Yes.
not qualified doctors. I personally believe that people indulge in such kind of infractions only when they know that there's an escape route. Otherwise, everyone will fall in line.
Hi, in today's episode, we have with us Satya Mohanty, a distinguished poet, playwright, and former senior bureaucrat. He's also written a novel and served as the Union Secretary of Education and Secretary General of the National Human Rights Commission. An Edward S. Mason Fellow at Harvard University and a visiting scholar at MIT's Spurs program, Satya Mohanty has made significant contributions to public service, academia, and public discourse. Post retirement, he hasn't stopped. He's taught economics as an adjunct professor at Jamia Millia Islamia and Guru Gobind Singh Indraprastha University. So today we are here to discuss his latest book, and you have to hold your ears when you hear the name. It's called Unpolitically Correct. This was the first time that I came across a title as interesting and provocative as this. The name of the book is Unpolitically Correct, The Politics and Economics of Governance. So welcome Satya Mohanty in today's episode, and we need to ask you about the title of the book Unpolitically Correct. What inspired you to choose such a provocative title given the times that we are in?
Uh, can't say that it was a burst of inspiration. It was a sort of deliberation that took me to this title. Uh, Politically correct means that it is correct, but with caveat emptor. It means that something like the lowest common denominator of correctness, because something you are missing out, because you are trying to be politically correct, and it's because you do not want to express anything, you don't want to act in a manner which will offend anyone. And the opposite of politically correct would have been politically incorrect, which means
Yes.
that expression and action and thoughts which are offensive and you couldn't care less. Uh, Actually, this work is not like that. It is not neither vituperative nor vitriolic. It just gets down to the cold facts and data to slice it and arrive at the conclusion. And that is why I called it, I thought unpolitically correct is more appropriate than either politically incorrect or politically correct, etc. That is why I arrived at this title.
Does that make you a little bit of a rebel, Satya?
Don't know. I will consider myself as absolutely a plain Joe. Uh, or you never know. There is some amount of rebellion could be there.
Obviously,
Uh,
there is. You've written that 1% of the population holds a lion's share of wealth in India. So, why do you think this concentration of wealth has accelerated, and what are the implications, for society with this sort of an observation that you've made in your book?
this data comes from Thomas Piketty's book. It comes from WID report. It comes from Oxfam reports, etc., etc. So that is not uh, that cannot be contested too much. And even if it is not 75 or it is 70, okay, the drift of the argument is the same. And why it happened is probably the policies, the actions in which uh, a minuscule number of people gained much more, and when the correctives are not taken for the people who are facing the downside. That is how it accelerated. And Piketty in his book shows that how it has accelerated from 1980 onwards. Okay, and if you ask me why it accelerated, I will say that sometimes it is benign neglect. Um, you know that something is
Neglect can't be
happening.
benign. How can
No,
neglect be benign, Satya?
uh, man is negligent by nature. Okay, so it can be benign neglect. It may not be as malicious as one would suppose it to be. Like, give you an example, like the banking. If you give big ticket loans, you are depriving the largest segment of agriculture, SMEs, and even education loan can also suffer if you have to. So this is something happens. But the point is, in public policy and governance, the litmus test is how quickly you are recognizing it and taking correctives. Okay, so that might not happen. And uh, then the second thing is that our data shows that wages as a share of the profit, okay, has come down from 22% to 14%. Okay. Uh, and then we find a lot of deleterious effect, etc. The acceleration, partly because belief in the orthodoxy too, that this is the method and this is the trajectory we will have to follow. So the what it will mean, what it means to the society, okay, is actually very daunting. Number one, inequality of very high order can be anti-growth. We are talking about growth, growth, growth all the time, but it can be anti-growth because beyond a particular point of time, when people find that they don't have any stake in this growth, then there will be distrust, there will be violence, and then there will be um, hmm, society will see a lot of divisive and corrosive activities. Okay. Then it is also directly inequality is high level of inequality is directly correlated to psychosocial problems. Okay, so these are the problems we will face as we go along if inequality is uh, not corrected in a way.
So many argue that, inequality is really the inevitable outcome, of economic growth. Now, what do you think can be the measures that can be taken to really balance this, growth inequity and also reduce this gap in inequality in a country as large as India?
Whether inequality is natural or ideological, that's an issue. No one is talking about equality of outcome. One is talking about equality of opportunity. Okay. If you look at equality of outcome, maybe it has got a lot of egregious consequences. Number one. Number two, it has never happened in history. But the point which I am trying to raise is that such high level of inequality, can it be condoned, or correctives are required? Uh, Now the next issue is that what can you do to reduce inequality? Okay. Uh, One thing is you rob Peter to pay Paul. That doesn't work out. Okay. But the second thing which doesn't work out is that some people are becoming very, very rich and it will trickle down. I have said in my book at some point of time that instead of trickle down, we see a trickle up. Okay. Um, what can be done? First thing is that you will have to give a chance to a large swath of population who have been denied a decent uh, livelihood, decent education, access to education, access to decent education, access to decent healthcare facility. Maybe the nutrition level may not be very high, and also culturally, sociocultural choices are also not there. Okay, so what do you do? Um, there are, I won't say that there are equity enhancing policies. I'm not telling equality enhancing policies, but equity enhancing policies. Just I gave you an example some time back that mm, if big ticket loans are given, then what happens is that the money is not available for going to the agriculture, etc., etc. So type of growth matters, and it is not my point of view. It is said by many people, as illustrious as Jagdish Bhagwati and others, that type of growth does matter. It is not the growth alone. So what do you do? Growth arising from agriculture is more equitable. Growth arising from SMEs, it creates a lot of virtuous effect.
It does.
And when I'm talking about the broad equality and broad equity, uh, how do you give opportunity to everyone in the society? So investment in these sectors to because the poor cannot access anything other than the government schools or the government hospital.
Correct.
Invest it there. And I don't think that we have got dearth of money. It's a question of prioritizing. Okay, it's a question of prioritizing, and it is possible.
So let's talk about education. What do you think that there are 50% of urban families who generally choose private schools over government schools, and education is a powerful tool to address inequality. Do you think that there is a certain vested interest here to just keep people where they are so that there is no dissent?
I will not jump the gun straight away. Um, it is true that mm, our schools are in pathetic conditions. Yeah, we have got a dysfunctional system, and people rush to private schools despite having a midday meal here and other things. And so why do people go to the private school? It's a perception of value for money. Okay. Uh, if you look at people who go to the private schools, who send their kids to the private schools, um, A, their perception is they're getting value for money. B, little bit of fixation with English education. Okay. And the third thing is that in a school where the teacher is absent uh, very often, and 50% of the teachers are not before the classroom, the man's confidence in that system goes away. Okay. So what happens is that what we need to do uh, is that, and it has been researched by Abhijit Banerjee and others, that mathematics teaching in the government school is better, despite the low quality uh, private school trying their best for it. Language teaching is better in the private schools. So that is a choice which people have made based on these perceptions. And also, we are not doing anything to correct it. So, number one is underfunding the sector. Whatever fund goes, 95% goes into salaries. Okay. Even for the chalk also, it is not there. So maybe we'll have to look at, and also we don't allow the schools to collect money. Small amount, 5-10 rupees. Okay, we don't allow. With necessary regulatory framework, it can be allowed, number one. Number two, teachers can be made to attend. And I believe I'm a great believer in principle of subsidiarity. The things which is it is best controlled at the appropriate level. There is no point in pushing it up to the highest level and etc. So, if there is a primary school in the village panchayat should handle it, and not at the state government level. Or if there is a high school in the block headquarters, maybe one intermediate institution will have to handle it. And second thing is that we'll have to do the lot of spring cleaning there. And the government has got a system that at least it is in the law that um, at the age of 50, everyone is evaluated and told whether you are inefficient or efficient. And if you are inefficient, you can send it back. It is there. It's a dead letter, but it's there. It was tried some time back, long time back. It's a dead letter. It can be utilized. You require fresh blood. You require um, people to be interested in coming back to the government school. And for that thing, the teachers will have to be present first. And teachers will have to do the teaching for second. Okay. And the
Teachers
third,
also need to be paid, salaries that private schools get. So there are so many talented teachers who don't want to join government schools because the salary disparity is huge.
on the contrary, data shows that Indian the school system doesn't pay that badly. We
Okay.
are 22nd in the world, and you will find that in every index we are towards the bottom. But this is one index in which we are slightly somewhere in the middle or towards the top. It is government teachers are paid reasonably well in our given our context. Okay, I'm not talking about the marquee private schools. I'm talking about the low-priced private school where most of the people send their children to. Okay, and payment is not the problem. Payment might have militated against the government underfunding the schools, because the point is the salary takes away a lot of money, and it's not a problem. But the point is, if there is a problem, we'll have to seek solutions. If the government is not in a position to fund, then you will have to find out methods by which these funds can be supplemented. Okay, if there is a support teacher required in a classroom, how it can be financed, whether the community can bear a part of this expenditure, whether the government should bear the part of this expenditure, or it is completely footloose. And the problem of our schooling system is, please understand, most of them are first generation learners. So every classroom is actually multiple classes.
What do you mean by that?
In a given class, if there are 30 students are there,
Okay.
some people, let's say the class is class 5. Some people are a class 5 standard. Some children are class 3 standard. Some children are class 1 standard. So they want to be treated differentially, trained differently, etc. It is not necessarily tuition. Okay, it is also learning with a cohort in which you feel at home. Okay, so I do not say that like segregate them from the race horses from the work horses. Okay, I don't say that. But the point is, there are methods and there are a lot of experiments which have taken place, which should be recognized and acted upon.
So you know what? Even our prestigious institutions, and universities are really losing their autonomy now, in teaching and in research. So can you just share your views on this?
Yeah, that is slightly distressing. Uh, Education is a system in which thousand flowers should be allowed to bloom. If people who are in the system feel asphyxiated, then there is something wrong.
Absolutely.
Okay. And this is a place for debate. This is a place for dissent.
Absolutely.
Okay. This is not a place for a single narrative to be churned out.
100%.
Okay. So in that particular case, if the autonomy is, curtailed, then there is a problem on hand. When other countries are breaking the frontiers of science, IIT Madras director, I hope that news I read is not correct. Okay. He apparently extolled the virtues of Gomutra.
I read it.
Okay. It could be funded research, um, but no serious research can come out with this conclusion so quickly. Okay. And so those are problematic things. And you will get this kind of products, this kind of research, this kind of thing, because these are the Pied Piper versions. Okay. And second thing is that unless the best of the professors don't want to become vice chancellors, so what does it suggest? Among the existing professors, many among them don't want to become vice chancellors.
Because they become like puppets, right?
So they find some problem. Okay, they
Obviously,
find
there's.
some problem, and these problems have to be recognized, and not only recognized, and correctives have to be taken. This is a place where you will have to allow multiple thoughts to flow in,
Absolutely.
debate to
Thrive.
exist very strongly. Okay, and maybe as you go along, I do not say that if you're an army officer after your education system, you will be allowed the similar kind of latitude. Okay, or you are a police officer, extreme latitude will be allowed to you. No, but I understand. But while in the university system, if you want the best research to come out, best teaching to come out, people should. As you know, I was teaching for 5 years. It is a very exacting profession. It's a very fulfilling profession, but it's a very exacting profession because you do not want to leave any dark corners in your preparation. So that's how it is, and hopefully things will change.
Yes, we can only hope and keep our fingers crossed because it is the youngsters actually who lead our country forward.
Yeah,
And if there is, no autonomy and no democracy of thought there, then there is a serious problem ahead of us.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. So another theme in your book is healthcare inequality, which is really close to my heart. I was raised by my mother who went, both my parents, but my mother was with the government hospital. But every time we fell ill, we would not go to the government, clinics in Delhi to get our medication going. So there is, you really criticized the government's role as a regulator in healthcare. And I completely agree with you on this. It is abysmal, actually, when you go inside some of the hospitals that are there, that I recall in Delhi. So can you just elaborate a little bit more on, this inequality in healthcare?
Okay. First thing is that in rural India, most people go to the rural medical practitioners who are
Yes.
not qualified doctors.
Yeah.
Okay. And they are pumping in antibiotic and steroid. If you put steroid and if you give antibiotic, they work as temporary palliative. Okay. But that's not a cure. And the country will be staring at this kind of immunity arising out of steroid and antibiotic after some time. Standard this thing given is that doctors don't stay, etc. I personally believe that people indulge in such kind of infractions only when they know that there's an escape route. Okay, otherwise everyone will fall in line. Okay, and in the modern day with technology and everything, it is not impossible to ensure that doctors are available there. And if doctors are not available, please allow the BSc nursing assistants to prescribe some simple drugs. That is better than going to an RMP, okay, who has got no training at all. And for referral, you can go to a better doctor, etc. Typical problem of any institution of this type is underfunding, then the absenteeism, manpower deficit, manpower deficit. Okay. So sometimes I went to the government hospitals of Delhi. Okay.
CGS, chest, right?
No, not CGHS. I went to AIMS, Maulana Azad,
Mm-hmm.
etc., etc.
Mm-hmm.
CGHS, yes, you can say that I'm privileged to a certain extent, but at the same time, hats off to those doctors who have got a queue of 150 people outside. Okay. And they are there and they don't lose their cool. They go about their work. So that means if the population has doubled in a period of 30 or 40 years, our institutions might not have doubled. Okay. And we require more institutions to be there, or we require better funding, etc. And ecosystem. The ecosystem part of it will have to take care. The reason being, once you know that politicking is more beneficial than doing a professional work, who will do professional work? Okay. So the ecosystem will have to changed. My suggestion in that thing is that you define the budget, you stick to it, you also make sure that government's representative is there in the board rather than picking up the telephone and asking this or that and that kind of thing. But the point is, it is a lot more complicated than that. But the drift of my idea is you should be a little hands off. Okay, little hands off. So naturally, this inequality will is very alarming. And what do they land up in? Um, like what do they do is that, like, there is a insurance scheme called up to 5 lakhs. They land up in private hospital. Hygiene factor is very good, looks very good. Once you walk in, you blow up that 5 lakhs and come back. And even if it is a simple operation, I have
I
come across a case of a person whose hand was dislocated. He was put in ICU for 9 days. And for that thing, it doesn't require ICU, this thing. There is no procedure done. Okay. And then he was given a hefty bill. Okay. So the moment you have got the insurance scheme, your guilt is gone because you have done something for people. But that something is nothing. Okay. Because every time you walk into the hospital, you are given such a big bill that the first visit itself it is over, and thereafter you will have to sell your property and other things. So this
I've
is
met a lot of families, in Bangalore who come from really nooks and corners, of West Bengal and from Orissa and from many other places. And they've pawned their jewelry, their land, their everything to just go ahead and get some treatment going. And, it breaks your heart when you see that they don't even understand half of the things that they are being told. So, I somewhere, I really don't know how this can ever be bridged. And, you kind of feel sad, you feel bad, and then you come back and you give up and you continue with your life.
it, every problem has got some solution. There is no problem which cannot be solved, but it has got a cost involved. Okay. And the second thing is that every time from a middle class household,
Yes,
someone falls ill and they pawn their property and sell their jewelry, etc., most likely they will slip into the below the poverty line.
yes,
Most
they will.
likely they
Yeah,
will. But
absolutely.
the point is, it can be done. Can be done in the sense I feel that it can be done. Okay, uh, strengthen your public institutions, strengthen your public hospitals, increase the number, increase the number, allow them to function in the proper manner. Because even today, for any of my medical problem, I do not go to a private hospital first. I go for my diagnosis to a government hospital because here is a doctor who doesn't have any incentive to overprescribe things, tests, to overprescribe procedures. But if you go to a private hospital, the incentive is loaded for them to go through a lot of tests which may not be required at all, go through a lot of procedures which could have waited. Okay. Even today I go to America because that is what I trust. Okay, I have got a little better leverage in a government hospital, maybe. Okay, but the point is, private hospital, I dread to walk in there.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with you. I have been a caregiver for my father, and I know that I have seen people beg, for a reduction in their dialysis money. And it is, you come back totally choked thinking that where is it that middle class people
Yeah,
will go, especially when they come into these hospitals. And when you go into hospitals that offer you at a little lower rate, the water is not even distilled, for dialysis, and
right.
they have so much of body itching that
Hmm.
patients go through, and it's so, one chokes at the space at what Indians really go through, for the cost of healthcare in India. So let's just talk a little bit about the taxing of the super rich, which is
Okay.
again, your book discusses the idea, uh, unpolitically correct, of course, and points out taxes haven't really worked out very well. So how do you think that India could have done this differently or can do it differently?
What I have suggested there are basically two differences. Number one is a targeted taxation. Okay, targeted taxation means don't run after everyone. Put a put a level saying that okay, we will tax everyone above, let's say, 30 crores income a year, uh, at a much higher rate. Not 98% or 58%, but the point is not whatever you and I give. So you have a smaller number of people to deal with. Next thing I said is that wealth must be taxed. In that book, there is something. There is a chapter on the shadow economy, and that is so this is a diversion. Slightly, I'm digressing. Okay, but the point is there is wealth, there is income, there is transaction. Wealth is much more than the income. Transactions are much less than the income. Okay, because transactions are so in the black economy, what happened is that we didn't look at the black wealth. We looked at the black transactions, which is much less than the black income is as such, and black income is much less than the black wealth. So if the wealth has accumulated like that, we will have to do something about it. So I have said, fix a de minimis standard. That is one house, certain amount of money. Let's, for the sake of some kind of figure, let me put it around 10 crores. Let's say 10 crore as cash and one house. Then you have got all the reason why you should tax that wealth beyond that particular thing. Then I have suggested also that don't tax it straight away because the wealth is dead. If you tell him that pay me 30% on that wealth, no one can give you because he doesn't have that money. So what I said is that whatever wealth is there, collect 1% every year, 1% of the wealth value. It goes on, and let's say after the 20th year he sells the property, collect the remaining 10% from him then, because you have collected 1% over a period of 20 years. Okay, so these are all doable things, but for that thing you require geotagging of properties, etc., which is technologically possible. But the question is, what is not technologically comprehensive is that your willingness to bite the bullet, that may not be there. Okay, obviously, as an administrator, I know everything looks desirable, which looks desirable may not be doable. So I have looked at how it will be doable. Okay, so that is the thing. A higher threshold, put a threshold. Okay, and thereafter you go. Okay, thereafter you tax it. And let me tell you one thing: the stock market income, why it should be lower than the normal income, I do not understand. We middle class may be a little happy here and there, saving some taxes, but the question is, most of the stock market earning is with very few rich people at the top. So, like every earning should be taxed, and that is easily trackable.
So let's just talk now of something that is very, very politically incorrect.
Okay.
Let's talk about the political leadership which is pursuing some really eye-catching narratives, such as the third largest economy, five, trillion dollar economy. I mean, I am having difficulty in even saying that, and Viksit Bharat by 2047. So, what is your thoughts on this kind of growth? Can I use the word fetishism that is being, spoken about?
Uh,
Shiny India that we are talking about.
Growth is a necessary condition, but not a sufficient condition. Number one. Number two, when you talk about third largest economy in the world, I'll give an example. One household has got 20 people, each earning 1,000 rupees. Okay. And another household has got two people earning 15,000 rupees. Does a household with 20,000 become a richer country, richer household? Does it?
Obviously, no.
So, same thing with our third largest economy. What does it mean? It doesn't mean anything. Then you will have to go to GNP per capita. There also it will not mean much, but it just shows that how GNP per capita is an indicator. Okay, it doesn't say that the money is being distributed in that manner. Suppose 10 people are there in an economy and two people have got 98% of the GST, 90% of the GDP, eight people have got 10% of GDP. Okay, then there is a problem there. Okay, so these are narratives. And I remember about Columbus' diary. Columbus, when he was taking his ship, obviously he lost his way and he was going in the wrong direction, and the sailors became very restive. So he cooked up a diary. So one for his own reference, that how many nights he has traveled. Another for the sailors, he'll produce it, it's like, is much less. Okay. So the Bikasit Bharat by 2047 is something like that. First of all, by 2047, John Maynard Keynes said, in long term, of all of us are dead. And at least I can say for myself that I will not be there.
Nor will I.
No, you will be there. So that is Bikasit Bharat. Because, and what does Bikasit Bharat basically mean? More flyovers, more expressways, more contractor driven, gold plated projects. That doesn't make a country strong or growing or that kind of thing. So when 50% of the people are facing all sorts of indigence, you cannot say that Bikasit Bharat, because we are the third or we may be second also. Okay, we may become second largest economy. How does it matter? You have not given adequate opportunity for education, healthcare, livelihood, other things like you don't have a choice with regard to what you do. Your return on education is decreasing. The more educated you are, more likely you are to be unemployed. Okay, that is very alarming. Most of the unemployed people they have gone beyond class 10th. There it is 30%. Beyond school education, unemployment rate is 30%. For the ladies, and for the boys, it cannot be anything less than 12-15%. Okay. So these are narratives. These narratives, does it make anything? Unless the poverty is reduced, unless the inequity is reduced, unless the basic minimum is assured for a human being, none of these things matter. $5 trillion. What does it mean? It means per capita. Per capita. It doesn't mean that people per se will get $2,000 per capita. It goes up by $2,000. Okay. So it becomes 5 trillion. And if it goes up per capita $2,000, mind you, right now we are about 2,100 or 200. But 50 to 60% of us are in the $500 to $700 range. Are you getting the point? Our average is $2,200, but 50-60% of the people are in the $500 to $700. Okay. So that means there is a huge amount, a huge range is available, number one. And if you have 500 rich fellows, multi-billionaires, that doesn't make any difference. Finally, country is like a carriage. The carriage is to be pulled by horses. Who are the horses? The horses got to be, as every citizen is a horse for the economy. The litmus test is how the quality of life is changing. Quality of life changing means reduction in poverty, increase in employment, and basically the quality will have to change. If it doesn't change for majority of the population, and what is the meaning of that $5 trillion or Viksit Bharat or what is that thing? Third largest economy. None of these things are, none of these markers are meaningful unless there is qualitative change. Like, and it is no less than Jagdish Bhagavati had said that the type of growth matters. That means with that growth, with the aggregate growth, how much of poverty is being reduced, how much of employment is being created, how much of good quality employment is being created, and how the quality of life has changed. If these parameters are drawing a blank, these three things are very good slogans. Okay, but slogans don't deliver the results.
Absolutely, they don't. So let's talk a little bit about GST, which has been claimed, as a game changer in India. But of course, recent evidence shows that its performance is underwhelming, which I think a lot of people don't talk about. What major reforms do you suggest, Satya?
GST works well. Okay, works well when there is a single uniform rate or maximum two rates. We are one among the four countries which had four or five rates, and now we are in the top of the table now because you have introduced another rate at 35%. Okay, so to my mind, these multiple rates, both at the input and output level, create problem. They create problem with regard to difficulty in computing and assessing the tax incidence, the tax liability, and tax base. Okay, that's the problem, and it's a game changer. It's a game changer in the sense like central government has certainly benefited hugely out of GST. Okay, because the entire tax base of the states were taken over by the central government. Same thing I cannot say about the state government. State government may be getting enough money, but they have lost their tax sovereignty. In the sense, suppose they have got a problem in the tax marksmanship, then they had the ability to raise it. Now they cannot raise it. So the first problem is the multiple rates. The second problem is which original 115th amendment to the Constitution talked about that there will be a dispute resolution mechanism. Okay. If the states and other things don't agree, there will be dispute. But the way it is rolled out, there is no dispute resolution mechanism. Okay. The government of India has got 1/3 votes. States have got 2/3 votes. And out of the dozen states who do not contribute to win 5% GST, they have got the same vote as Maharashtra, which contributes about 15% GST. So Nagaland and Maharashtra will be in the same footing. Okay. So that is very unfair. And in those small states, basically are underwritten by the government of India. They survive with the grant from the government of India. So naturally, they'll sail along with the government of India. And it has come to mean that the government of India will always have the majority vote. Okay. So the majority. So first thing is bring in dispute resolution mechanism, and also don't treat everyone equally. Okay, everyone equally. You cannot create five different or a pro rata votes, etc. But the point is, obviously, a state like Maharashtra or a major state has got a different set of problems compared to a smaller state. Okay. And the third thing is that when the GST was brought in, its actual intention was cascading, I'll just tell you, of taxes will not take place. Cascading of taxes will not take place in the sense like farmer sells wheat to the miller. So you pay 10% there, you pay 10% once again, and you pay 10% at the baker stage. And on the base, you're paying 10%. So the GST was brought in, so there will be input credit because whatever tax has been paid will be reduced and it will go on. But look at the behavior. Let's say petroleum products are outside GST, and whatever the central excise is collected is shareable. So, what actually happened is the government of India increased the cesses, reduced the central excise, and suppose let's say 10 rupees per liter was central excise, it was reduced to 2.5 rupees, and cesses were 30 rupees was taxed. So, 30 rupees is not shareable. Okay. Only 2.5 rupees is shareable. So naturally, this additional cesses created cascading itself. It is not equitable federally between the state and the center. It is not fair. And you have got these multiple rates. Fourth item, what happens is the GST depends upon the GDP growth. Essentially, the gross value added in the economy. GST is a function of that. And the NIFPM had done some work to show that we are getting about 5 to 6.5% of the gross value added. Whereas our taxes are 18%, 28%, then what is happening? What is happening is that there are too much of exemptions. Threshold has been put in such a manner that many people can remain under the radar. Number three is that too cumbersome. The documentation work is too cumbersome. No one, like my daughter, is not taking an enhanced salary largely because she will come under GST. A salary means consultancy, this thing will come under consult. She said, no, until the time I complete my education, etc., I'll not take it. Because who wants to run to a chartered accountant to file every year? It's a game changer. Not very sure, but it is certainly beneficial to the government of India. Buoyancy, revenue buoyancy for the state, yes, it is there. But it has created a sort of a non-level playing field.
Why do you say that?
Between the center and the state, who is powerful? As I told, the voting pattern I pointed out. So that being the case, my feeling is that it will have to undergo some tweaking at one point of time. Okay, now we can steamroll it, all right, but the point is already it has started showing signs of fatigue, and the multiple rates part of it, they'll have to look at it. The higher threshold that has been defined, that they'll have to look at it. Exemptions have been given, they'll have to look at it. Until those things are there, GST will be a beast which has got several problems.
So, why do you think we need a corporate bond market? How do you promote really a dynamic corporate bond market? Tell us a little bit about that.
In countries in the West, what happens is that big industries are not allowed to take bank loans for their industry. The reason being, they can take working capital loan, but otherwise it will go to SMEs, small and medium enterprises, but not to the big this thing. But our banking system supports not only lending for the operation, but for mergers and acquisitions. There are two things here. Number one is that you require efficient price of credit risk. Someone takes it and you require some kind of arrangement by which bad behavior is punished. Market punishes bad behavior. The banking system may not. Okay. Because the point is you can take a loan, turn a defaulter, go for a one-time settlement and go ahead with your shenanigans once again. That is one side of the story. The second side of the story is that when a strong man and big man and a weak man are competing for the same resources, you know what is the outcome? The weak man will never get it.
Of
Okay.
course.
Okay. So the same resources, bigger borrowers take away, and whom do they compete with? They compete with loaning to the agriculture, okay, loaning to the SMEs, loaning to the informal sector, even for the education loan, okay, even for the education loan. So that being the case, corporate bond market should come in, because the point is that let banking system be free of this thing to take care of other items, and let the corporate bond market, which efficiently prices the credit risk, okay, and also punishes the bad behavior, okay, be the source of fund for the big people. How do you promote it? I will not say promote it. Okay. Already we have got an existing GSEC market, government bond market. Yield curve is available. The benchmark yield curve of the government bond market is there. I'll say that rather you should decide and insist that the corporate bond market is the place where you will access your funds. Well, this will be registered. The bankers will register it because they will not be able to do lazy banking. Now they give it to half a dozen fellows and they don't need to look after 1,000 borrowers. Okay. Uh, the people who have got the benefit, they will also register it, largely because here it is easily available, and after that thing you can default and still get away with it. And people who decide that, and in the politicians may not be very enthusiastic about bringing in the corporate bond market, because the eventually all these things are part of the campaign funding. Okay, so there will be resistance, but what is required is deciding that you will go for corporate market and insisting on it. Okay. There is no need to promote. There is a GSEC market available. There is a rating agency in India is reasonably good. Okay. Then there is a depository services which are available. So that being the case, it can be done. It can be done. It's technically it is not a problem, but there are political economy problem. And it must be done so that the resources of the banks are available for large swath of human population. Otherwise, only 10 or 15 big players can knock off their 75% of the money. That is why I suggested that.
So, Satya, the last question for for our listeners and also for your readers, what do you think that they will take away from Unpolitically Correct, and what kind of conversations or actions do you hope that it will inspire among your readers?
I wrote this book for the simple reason that there will be discussion and debate, and people will try to understand and try to go beyond the triumphant narratives. That is why I wrote the book. So the takeaway will be: don't believe in narratives. Look around for data. Look around for what it is telling. Like in COVID time, I came across a term called the smell test.
The smell test.
Yeah. If someone has got COVID, a doctor will say that I can smell it. In the sense, if someone has got fever, a doctor will say that like I can smell it. So if there's a problem, there's a smell test. Despite narrative, if you start asking questions, if you discuss, if you look around for data, you will find out. This is a book to initiate that discussion. Left to themselves, the governments, like every human being or every set of human beings, are likely to help more the better healed people. Okay, and the average citizen uh, will be the designated loser. So these questions must be asked. Unless these questions are asked, you don't make your government accountable. you don't make your policymakers accountable. And this is something which I wanted, and we need not argue from a predetermined position. We need not. Then that will be, that means you are victim of your ideology or that kind of thing. You are a prisoner of your ideology. You get your data, you get your facts and figures right, and argue, even if it is not acceptable to many people around you. That is the conversation I wanted to start. Okay, so that's why I wrote the book.
Congratulations. Thank you so much for taking out the time today to be on our podcast. And it's been an absolute honor, Satya Mohanty, to talk to you. And for all our readers, Unpolitically Correct. It's a book that will give you a lot of insight and the questions that we all need to ask. Thank you, Satya.
Thank you, Mohua. It was a pleasure having the discussion here. Thank you.